Well, let's start. I would like to call the Curriculum and Policy Committee of the Portland Board of Public Education to order. It's Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. We're meeting online via Zoom, and tonight's agenda includes a presentation on the district's strategic initiative 2.5. We have members of the staff and members of our committee. If you'd like to introduce yourselves, please. Sarah?
Hi there. I'm Sarah Lentz. I'm chair of the board. I'm not on this committee, but I'm just here to listen and participate. I'll pass it to Mickey.
Thank you, Chair. Mickey Bondo, Vice Chair of the board and member of the Policy and Curriculum Committee.
I'm Sarah Warren, Senior Executive Director of Strategy, and the staff member who tries to support the committee as best I can. And I'm going to hand over to Dr. Ahmed.
I'm Abdullahi Ahmed, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Secondary Schools. And thanks. And I don't see who else is there. So is Jesse there?
I'll take it back.
Yes.
And if there are a couple of people I know that are coming a little bit late, so we'll introduce them as they come on. We don't need Mr. Ali is on the attendee list, so we'll bring him over. I was looking to see if we had anyone with public comment. We don't normally do public comment, but appreciate the opportunity to hear at any time. So I'll wait a moment to see if there's anyone who wishes to do that. If you do, please raise your hand in Zoom. Although I don't see any attendees other than in the committee. So another half a minute and then we'll move on. I think we'll close public comment and Mr. Ali, Member Ali, if you're there.
Yes.
You introduce yourself or say hi.
Okay, I got you. My name is Ali. Ali, it's actually Abdul Ali, but I'm known as just Ali. I previously worked around juvenile justice. I'm a policy analyst with the University of Southern Maine. I was there for a few years. I was also on the Race and Equity Committee for the City of Portland. I've been doing work around the city and state around any youth mental health issues and things like that for the past 11 years. I've done work across the country, worked with universities like Georgetown University as well as Columbia University. I've done lots of theater. I've passed multiple bills in the legislature, and so on. There's more work that I've done, but yeah.
That's okay. Fantastic, and okay. You're an asset to this committee. I'm so glad you join us.
Of course,
and all the expertise we can on this in this topic.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah Warren, are you going to do Dr. Warren, are you going to do the presentation for us this evening?
I will. You had mentioned wanting to give members a chance to say a little bit about their interests on the committee. Did you want to do that before or after the presentation?
It might be good to wait till after the presentation so that everybody is here and, kind of more comfortable of thinking about what's going on. So sure. Take it away.
All right, we're going to test my technology skills here. Okay. Can you see that okay? Great. All right. Good evening again, everyone. Again, my name is Sarah Warren. I'm the Senior Executive Director for Strategy. And one of the areas of work that falls into the strategy bucket is special education. As many people know, we've moved to a new structure this year for our central office work and oversight of schools, which includes a centrally based strategy focused and resource sort of focused team that's looking at special education. And then we also added positions to our new network teams to provide direct support and coordination on a day-to-day basis for schools around special ed. One of those is filled now, and one is will be filled as of the start of the school year. The secondary position, we're still looking to hire that elementary person. We do have a great team at the central level with Jesse Applegate. Tisha is overseeing our sort of specialized programming. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here tonight because we decided to add this to the agenda somewhat late, so they weren't able to shift their schedules. But I will present on behalf of the team and do my best to answer questions. And if there are things I can't answer, then I'll take it back to the team and we'll come back to you with responses. So in particular, this evening, I wanted to share with you a brief update on our Strategic Initiative 2.5, which is the part of our strategic plan that particularly zeroes in on special education. We're going to just give a quick overview of what that initiative looks like. And then I wanted to provide a little bit of detail around our new partnership with the district management group, which we've brought in to help us move this initiative forward. They're helping us do what's called an opportunity review. So we'll talk about the purpose behind that and the method that we're going through to get to a better understanding of where we're at currently in our special education programming and where we might go to improve our services and support and instruction for students with disabilities. So we'll run through that. It's relatively short, and then I'll leave some time for discussion and questions. So Strategic Initiative 2.5 is about our special education continuum. And this falls within our broader priority around academic achievement and excellence. So we are looking at a number of different things within the broader achievement priority. And you've already, as a committee, heard some updates and overviews, particularly around the work that Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Atkinson-Duina and their teams are leading related to ELA, English Language Arts. And here we're zeroing in on a different aspect of that work and a different initiative. So 2.5 is about building the capacity of our schools to provide more effective instruction to students with disabilities across a full continuum of services. And there's an emphasis on universal design for learning, which is essentially about making sure we're looking at ways to be inclusive and use best practices that actually benefit all students, not just students with disabilities. So this is an initiative that's quite a big lift for us. And given our staffing challenges this year, particularly the difficulty we've had in filling those two network level special ed director positions, it's put a lot of extra pressure on our centrally based team to provide a lot of added direct support to schools. And because we've added a special education coordinator in every school this year, and we've needed to do a lot of extra work to get that off the ground, to provide first to hire those people and then to provide training and ongoing support for them. So that work, along with just a lot of day-to-day support for schools and for special education teams, is coming primarily at this stage from the central office team in partnership with our assistant superintendents and the folks that they do have in their networks. So we were falling behind where we wanted to be in doing this opportunity review. And so we decided to reach out and find some partners that could help us, which I actually think in many ways is sort of fortuitous, because I believe that with their partnership, their national lens and their experience in this realm, we're, I believe, going to come out with an even stronger both report on what we're currently doing, as well as quite confident we will come away with some very strong recommendations. about where to go forward next. So District Management Group, they're based in Boston. They do a lot of work with school districts across the country, and they have particular expertise around special education programming. So that's why we have partnered particularly with them. They use the term opportunity review. You might think of it as an assessment and proposal for the way forward. And as we're doing that work with them, they're really helping us move the work. I mean, it's admittedly takes quite a bit of our time every day as well. So it's not like they're doing all of this for us. It's very much a partnership, but I appreciate the way that they're keeping us moving. So one of the first things they helped us do was to establish and launch our advisory group across the district, which is folks from a variety of positions and schools and district offices. They're doing a lot of data analysis, taking data that we have provided from human resources, our finance team, our data team. It's really a broad sweep of different types of student outcome data, staffing data, financial data, et cetera. They have also been conducting focus groups for us. Over 100 people have now participated in those. Individual interviews, I think we're up to about 18 people having participated in those. And we've just begun a staff schedule analysis, which is looking at how staff that are particularly directly involved in special education instruction and services are spending their time, which hopefully will help us better understand the way that we're using our team resources. There are staff and family surveys that will go out soon to make sure we're getting as much input and a breadth of perspective as we can from the broader community. And then one of the great things that DM Group brings to us is this ability to quickly benchmark what we are doing and what we're seeing in our own district against what's happening in other districts, and then bringing some of their best practices to us. And ultimately, all of this will be pulled into a report that we expect to have in February with key findings and recommendations for action, which the action very likely will be some shorter term proposals for the coming year, as well as longer term proposals for how we can take the strategy forward. So again, phase one is what we've basically just been in, and we're in phase two right now. So we launched the advisory group. Your very own committee chair is a part of that group on behalf of the board. So thank you, Dr. Opperman, for being there. And then the focus groups and interviews are mostly finished. And again, we've had a few board members that have participated in that. So thank you as well for taking that time. And then the schedule sharing and surveys are happening now as we speak. And then the final findings we expect to start coming out in December and January. Sorry, that should have said February, actually, because I think we will get initial findings in January. And then I expect after they receive feedback from the advisory group, from other folks in the district, then they will update those findings and come back to us in February with more of a plan. So that was very quick. And I would love to open it up for discussion and would really love to get any input you all have that could help guide this process as we're moving forward. So we'll be back to you again in February with more of the results of what's been found and what's being recommended. But if there's anything that this committee would like us to be taking into account, or particularly making sure that we're looking at as we move through this process rather rapidly, I want to make sure that we're feeding that back into our team that's on the ground doing this work. So I'm going to escape out of this deck because I can't see people, but I will open it up for questions.
Thank you, Dr. Ward. I just also wanted to note that Dr. Atkinson-Duena has joined us as well. And I know that member Sarah Ali is on her way at this point. Any questions at this? Yes. Bondo. Chair Bondo.
Vice Chair Bondo, you're muted still.
Oh my goodness, thank you.
It happens
Thank you,
all
Dr.
the time.
Ryan, for the presentation. On the what I want to see is that on the key findings, if we really can have the current situation we have now a little in details, because the thing that I still don't get in my brain is that the way the special education is working right now. Because if I see what DM group is attending to do, is like really getting us to the new chapter. But before we move to the new chapter, I just want to see what's happening, what's going on right now, because the school is we're still running the school. I mean, the students are still there. So, in regard to curriculum, what's going on right now, and what I want to see, all different categories, like we have the beach program, we have the brave program, we have the behavior program. So, how many of those services we have is possible? And then, the way the funding's been allocated for each one, if possible. And then, they can also look at the different practices, the way I want to see happening, for them to try to advise us for the practices so we can have some great benchmark for the future. I really want to see what we have done and what we're doing, and what went well, because I don't feel like we don't have to erase everything, but we can see what went well and what we can continue to do. So this is everything I want to see on the key findings.
That's great. Thank you. And yes, I have to say, I've never been in a strategic planning process that was quite this comprehensive. They're going deep and they're going broad. And actually, I forgot to mention in the slides that they're also going to do some classroom visits. So they're going to look, come in and sort of, get some visual and ground truth what they're hearing by going around to schools and classrooms, which we thought was a really important thing for them to do as well. And we've done, I think, more sort of surveys, more of everything than they might have even initially suggested, because we wanted to make sure that this was as inclusive and as broad a picture as possible, that we're getting all different perspectives, and also that we're looking. If I, can speak openly, I think, we've had a lot of concerns and had concerns raised about our specialized programs. That has been a pain point, for staff, for families, for students in some cases. And so we, are, I think, humble about that and want to really be open to different possibilities of how that might run better and make sure that we're truly meeting the needs of all students. And it's not just limited to that. It's really looking comprehensively at the full continuum, and also thinking more about how are we currently educating our students in the regular education setting, and is there more we can be doing to better support students with disabilities in regular education classrooms? Are there more inclusive practices we should be doing? What is the professional development that we need to provide school leaders and special education educators, as well as regular ed educators? Are there co-teaching model options that we might want to look at, where we've got regular and special education teachers, working collaboratively alongside each other in a room? So I agree with you, Vice Chair Bondo, that it's we don't want to get to the recommendations until we've gotten the full picture. But I feel fairly hopeful, based on what's happened so far in the process we're going through, that we're going to have a fairly comprehensive and robust analysis of where we're at currently.
Before I can just let Chair Lance just give you a little bit of a second. For the multilingual families, I know we have the dual identification. And I remember a couple of years ago, we invested to have a coordinator with expertise to make the assessment, because we find out that some of those students they just need a language support, but we are sending them to the special education. So I just want to see that one too. The data around those. If we have increased the number, who decreased the number, and what we have done since we invested to the coordinator for those assessments. Because I know the racial load was so high for one coordinator. I think it's so important for us moving to the budget season to have those kind of findings as well. So please, I want to see those follow up as well. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you.
Chair Lentz.
Thank you, Chair Opperman. Just a couple of thoughts, which I was in one of the focus groups with DMG and just was really impressed by the kinds of questions that they were answering and the level of knowledge that they were bringing into the conversation. It made me really excited because I just feel like these specialized services have been a place that, since I've been on the board, there just hasn't, we just haven't been able to provide transparency to the community or to the board about kind of like the state of affairs and the plan to move forward. And I think that there's been a lot of shifts in this program or these programs over the last couple of years as well. And so I am just echoing like Vice Chair Bondo, just really like almost like that organizational diagnostic that we used for the district to really narrow in on these set of programs. I am just going to say a couple of things that I said in the focus group. Vice Chair Bondo and we both talked about just data. Like, I don't know if this is a place where we have historical data that we can actually use to compare and see if, there's been any successes there, but then also really making sure that we're setting up ourselves to be able to disaggregate whatever data we're going to start collecting so that we can look at students of color with IEPs, disabled students with IEPs, or, to be able to kind of like just really target in on solutions based on the students' particular needs. And I think, in kind of the last couple of years, I've just heard so much from staff that work within these programs that they also need these things. And so I'm just hopeful that in creating this plan, we're also like very intentional about what our staff need to feel really supported. And I think that they've been stretched. And so just like being really thoughtful about how we're supporting our staff. And then finally, how this has always felt like, since I've been involved with the board, a separate part of the district. And I have heard that same sentiment from families and kids. And I would really I hope that within this plan that we figure out a way for this not to feel separate, because I just think these families and kids bring really amazing things to our district, and we need to figure out how to celebrate all the things that they bring into the district, and that means thinking about them as part of everything else. So I'm just hopeful that there's a bigger kind of container, that it's not just what's happening in the programs, it's about the kids and their families, and creating a sense of belonging within the programs.
Thank you, Chair. I have the slide deck from the committee, and after everyone asks their questions, I have a few slides I pulled that might give some insight into kind of what they're looking at. But anyway, Member Ali.
Yes, I don't know if Sarah wanted to respond to Sarah.
Oh, I just on that last point, that one of the things when we were initially meeting with district management group, two things. One is that just how important it was to us that not only do we hear from as many people and voices and perspectives as possible through the process, but that then hopefully lays the foundation for more ongoing engagement and sense of ownership and collaboration across the board. Because to do this work well, we really need everybody involved. And these are our students, right? They are part of our community. They're part of our schools. They're not all in specialized programs. Many, most students with disabilities are in regular education classrooms. So needing to really make sure that this is building towards a way that we operate that is really taking into account everybody's strengths and assets, and including hearing above all from our educators and our school leaders. And then the other piece was making sure that they understood the importance to us of family engagement, and that families be involved now up front in this process, but that we also want to make sure that coming out of it, we're launching a longer term family advisory group that we can stay connected with. And not, I realize those groups can function in lots of different ways, and we certainly don't want to only work with or hear from a small group of families, but it can be really helpful to have an advisory group that helps us connect with the broader community of families. And so that's certainly, whether they recommend it or not, and I suspect they will, we want to make sure that that's one of the things coming out of this.
And thank you so much for that response. I don't know why I'm thinking about it. It's good information. So I have a few questions as well. I think I'm going to touch up on Mickey's questions and the request that she kind of made for the information. I would also like to see the data, and I want to know the criteria of what a disabled, or they call it a youth with disabilities or special youth. Obviously, we have to figure out some better terms, but I want to know the criteria of which mental health issue would fall into that. From personally just knowing and understanding, I grew up with a lot of people that were diagnosed and some that weren't diagnosed. And I was diagnosed with multiple different things, and realizing that, those diagnoses were probably incorrect, or it was correct, but it's not really a disability. It's more of a tool of mental and understanding. So just trying to realize and understand who's identifying it. Is it the psychologists? Is it the people with the medical degrees that are identifying it? Where are the complaints coming from? Is it coming from the teachers to identify, oh wait, this youth is acting like this or that, and probably mistaking a diagnosis for just a behavioral reaction, and things like that. So it would just be interesting first just to look at the type of disabilities that would fall into a special category, and then just like the how the programs and everything that are working and whatnot that both Sarah and Vicky were asking. So thank you. That'll be it.
Yeah, those are really great questions, and it's making me realize that it might be helpful if we did some kind of just a session maybe for families, community, and board members around the whole process of identification, evaluation, and then moving into the development of an IEP. It is all very much kind of scripted in certain ways in terms of the federal law, the IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And that is what governs our work around special education and identification of students with disabilities. Just to really quickly note, it can be families that raise a concern or a question and want their child evaluated, and we immediately then do that. It may be anybody on the team. It could be a teacher, a social worker, an administrator that might see that there's a need for a child to be evaluated. An evaluation doesn't necessarily mean that they then qualify for services or that they need an IEP. It may not be the case. So IEP meaning individualized education program. And that then, if they do end up having an IEP, that will specify based on that particular student's needs and disability what types of instruction they might need, what types of services and supports they might get. Your point about over-identification is a really good one. I came most recently from Baltimore City Public Schools, where over-identification of students with disabilities was a big problem, and that is a major issue related to racial equity in a lot of districts. My sense has been that we're not quite as, that over-identification is not quite as big an issue for Portland, but I think it's something that we have to make sure we keep looking at. There's also a risk of under-identification. And that would probably be my bigger concern, is just making sure that we're catching every student who needs some kind of support, and that we're doing it as early as possible. And I will say that's something that we're really heavily focused on. In fact, I'm working on a funding proposal around this right now, to see if we can get more resources to look at the needs of our students, and even before there are students, at the early childhood level, because if we catch things then and provide significant intervention and supports there, students will then potentially enter pre-K or K in a better spot, and be, better able to sort of engage with the educational experience and the curriculum and whatnot, and may not need services over a long run, or they may, but we want to make sure we're catching students as early as possible, as soon as there's any inkling that they might need something added. And it may or may not come down to an IEP. It might just be other types of supports that don't qualify as special education, but are just, what a student needs.
And just last follow-up real quick. What are the ages, or is it just elementary? Is it all elementary, middle, and elementary, middle, and high school, or is it just middle and high school?
Pre-K through every.
Yeah.
Okay.
Special ed goes up until 22 years of age.
Okay, so there's the IEP from K through 12.
Pre-K through 12.
Pre-K to 12, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Vicki?
Thank you so much. A quick follow-up come to my head is that you may not have it, Dr. Warren, but it's going to be fun. Do we know across all the grades, how many students in the population we have under the special education?
How many students have disabilities?
Yes, under the special education.
We do. I don't have the number right off the top of my head right now. I should. I actually think it's on our homepage, so I'm just going to check quickly.
While she's doing that, I just wanted
18%.
Pardon me?
18% of our students. So we've got a little over 6,600 students in our student population, and about 18% are students that have been identified as special education, needing special education services.
Okay.
Seems low.
Mm-hmm.
It seems low.
Okay, I give 100.
Really?
Thank you, Chair. Wow. Okay. That's a high number too. So, and I know then we have some time to recommend some of our students to see outside services. We do the diagnostic, and then some stage on those area of services, we cannot provide it. So we have to send them outside. So I just want to see on those key findings, if are the pipeline, the channel of services from what we do the diagnostic, and how we have to have the outsourced services. And as the return, because I know for sure is a lot of issues on services, especially about the speed how the outside services are responding to different families. Sometimes they have to wait a couple months or sometimes a year to get those services outside. So can we find also what's going on? And I know sometimes we don't have any control if it's something about the state or federal requirement. So I just want to understand as a process.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, and just to distinguish, there are external services that we may contract to come in and provide added support to students in schools that we don't have ourselves, or where we don't have enough people and we need added support. And then there are out of district programs where we may send students if the IEP team determines that the instructional program and the support services that a student needs cannot be provided within the district. The IEP team may make a recommendation or put it into the student's IEP plan that they should receive an out-of-district placement. That decision by an IEP team doesn't necessarily mean that there's immediately a spot available for the student in the right place or the right program. And I mean, one of the biggest challenges that we face as a district and that other districts across Maine and across the country are facing is challenges with staffing. We just don't have enough people coming into the pipeline of special education teachers, ed techs, other types of service providers, related service providers. So again, that pipeline building is one piece that we know we need to be looking at. But that same thing that affects us in our programming and our ability to serve students affects our partners in the out-of-district programs. They also are struggling with staffing challenges. And so they're limited in how many spots they can offer and how many of our students they can take in. So we're talking about programs like the Margaret Murphy Center in Saco, Woodford's in Westbrook. I'm trying to think. There's so many. And we take students to those schools every day. We have lots of students that are in those programs. And we have a wait list of students that are not yet in those programs. And we're just continuing to hope that we can get some of those spots. But my hope is that also through this strategy process, we might think about whether there are other ways that we can internally meet the needs of students that are at that end of this continuum of need. For example, we used to have what's called a day treatment program inside the district, and now we don't. And that is, something that we need to look at as a part of this process. What can be done internally? What can be done externally? You're right. We don't have a lot of control over how many seats our partners have or the existence of those programs. So we have to do what we can within the current, resources.
Well, thank you.
Mr. Lee?
Yes, I'd just like to say that staggering number, 1 in every 5 youth, or just for me to think about it. And I am actually now interested in the racial data and hopefully the income data, family income, because I think, one of my biggest worries is that there's a linear way, I guess, that we are expected to act. Depending on where we grew up, we may be abnormal to the society view of how you're supposed to be in classrooms. And this can fall into white individuals that grew up in rural areas or urban areas or whatever, or in low income and, not saying low income are bad technically, but, drug and alcohol, whatever you want to call it. But and the reason why I'm questioning this is because if the narrative of majority of teachers and or whatever it is, are assessing it you're supposed to be in the mental middle class, family, I grew up with 2 or 3, siblings, or 1 or 2 siblings, big house, had my own room, really calm, compared to someone who grew up in 2 rooms, 5 kids, both parents, have cultural differences, can be from different parts of Africa, Asia, can be from the Hispanic areas. But just, it's making me think, and if that is one of the points of just because cultural, because I just want to know why it's 1 in 5, and I want to know, it's a deeper understanding of it. 1 in 5 is a staggering number. 20% of youth have disabilities.
Yep. And so Yes, absolutely. It's not an uncommon, that's not out of line with other districts, I would say, and even lower than some I've, been involved in. And keep in mind that this is all different types of disabilities, right? This is students with autism, students that have various types of developmental disabilities, students with emotional disabilities. I think that above all, where what you're talking about is it's important to look at in every aspect of our work around disabilities, but especially when we come down to things that relate to behavior and concerns about student behavior. And I think what you're getting at that's so important is the really close connection and intersection of this work with our work around equity. And how, I mean, you're right. We also, I think, always have to be looking at the data disaggregated. And, I think one of the things that this board and committee should be happy about, I hope, and that gives us all hope, is that, we are now moving in a direction as a district where we finally are getting more solid, reliable data. And so the sort of, parallel work that's being done by Haley Diedrichson and her team on, kind of cleaning up and improving our data systems and analysis will really go nicely hand in hand with this work that we're trying to do, as well as the work that we're trying to do on race and equity, where we're focusing in increasingly on culturally and linguistically responsive leadership and teaching practices, and having high expectations for all of our students. And so I think all of those pieces can, if done well, kind of come together and complement each other. And you should absolutely, thank you, keep pushing us for that data, and we'll make sure that we're bringing disaggregated data to you.
And yeah, last thing is, like, I just want to say that race and equity are not combined, right? Mm-hmm. Race is this particular part that has to be equitable, but equity can fall into points just outside of it without race, right? And so just wanted to clarify that.
No, that's absolutely true. And I think that I really like the way our equity policy is written. I think it makes it, clear that we take a sort of comprehensive view of equity. And yet in this district, we have also prioritized racial equity as something that we know we really need to be working on. And that is called out in our strategic plan. So that's why I named it that way.
Thank you. A couple points I'd like to make on this is, one, I'm pleased with the group that is doing the analysis, because the people they are talking to are comprehensive. They are families. They are all the psychologists, anyone possibly in connection with any of these students, and interviewing those and analyzing where these kids are, where the teachers are. The other aspect of what I liked when listening to them in their presentation, and I was in a group, and I presume that you all will be as well, yesterday, that the idea that it's because it's such a wide variety of ways people might have challenges, that the classroom knowledge of special ed techniques is really, really important, whether it's behavioral or others. I know from my experience in this case of what is good for a student who is in and needs a little extra help in one area is good for all of them. So the more we focus, I think, on the special ed aspects across the board, the more we will find, I think, that the individual teachers have the skills that they need. It is in the classroom, because as you said, you didn't want it to be isolated, but you did want to have it in a way that it is accessible.
Yeah. And in that, the framing of the initiative, going back to the 2.5, what you're talking about really comes down to that universal design concept, where we're doing things that are great for all students. And they should serve the needs of a lot of our students with disabilities, but they also are good for students in our classrooms in general.
Great. Any other comments on the presentation or anything on this? Okay. As Dr. Warren mentioned at the beginning, there are many ideas that have come in conversation. Mr. Ali, you're new into the group. It'd be good to have some ideas from you. Mickey may have come up with some other thoughts on what is important for this committee to address. There's one that has come up, of course, is policies related to cell phones and technology and the like. And it would be interesting to know if there are other ideas that one might have relative to what we should be investigating, not necessarily writing a policy, but certainly becoming a better understanding of what's going on. Or if you've looked at the policies, any of them you really want to focus on.
Yeah, just a quick response. I think that I'm just really interested in learning more. So really appreciate all of this. And, it's really, it's a little like eye-opening that you guys are working on this in the background and doing all this work. So I appreciate that as well. Just coming into the position. So, but yeah, I'm for open education, throw whatever at me for now. And then whatever
yeah, it is a lot. It is a lot. We can't do it all. I mean, Nikki, you can speak to this. You've been doing it for a long time and working very hard and making strides. But yeah, yes. You got to do what you can.
Exactly. So it's two things that I put on my notes here is that, and I think for us to move forward, if Dr. Warren, you can, and I think it's going to help Ali also, to get us back to the table, then we have all the updates policies that we have done, I think from last year. So I mean, everything then we have updates. I think we're going to have a clear ideas and Ali can catch up to see, okay, those if he sees something and you want to bring back to learn a little more and to get into that conversation, I mean, it's going to help us. So what I want to see, I don't know if do we have a policy around pre-K? Or this is in the curriculum. This is curriculum. I just want to. I know we have resolution, but I just want to make sure we do have.
I didn't see one going through, but there may be a piece of something in one of the others. I do know that pre-K is I've been approached by several, I'm sure you have, people wanting to know how we are handling pre-K and particularly how our resources for those pre-K classrooms that are outside of school buildings. There's a different access happening by virtue of just what's easy to get to. So that is one thing I've noticed on that. Sarah, I don't think we have.
We have, it was the resolution. And the truth is that I think that is an area where we will need to do some work eventually. I don't know if we'll be, if this year is the right time to do it or if maybe it's next year. We have, it gives me heart palpitations, but we have a huge amount of work coming our way because by state law, we have to take over from Child Development Services their role of identifying children with disabilities and providing services starting at age 3, 2.8 actually, it was pointed out to me the other day, is when the assessments begin. And so that is a huge lift that I'm doing a lot of work right now to try to just figure out the right structure that we need to put in place to get that work moving. And you will see some proposals around that in our budget proposal coming up when we start that process soon for next year. And we are also, I've just joined a group of people in Southern Maine from other districts that are coming together to try to learn and share with one another and figure out how we're all going to do this. So there's sort of pre-K broadly. We have 18 classrooms across the district, including the 3 I think you were referencing in our 2 partner organizations. but then those aren't all of the children at those age levels in the city. So we've got our own, I think, general pre-K curriculum and instruction and teacher professional development and stuff that we really need to look at, as well as the larger sort of project that we're going to have to take on around taking over the CDS work on special ed for the children at that age. So, I mean, we could certainly come and provide an update to the committee on pre-K in general, and where we're at right now, if that would be of interest to the committee. And then I'll definitely need to come back to you at a somewhat later date with some of our thinking on how we're going to tackle this bigger project that's been handed our way.
Okay, please. Because I remember, if my memory is still okay, we had a resolution. I think we have to add 2 or 4 spots every year, I think, until a specific year. I don't know if it's 26 or 27. So I just want to get some updates on that to see what's happening after the year. Then we decide. I think we're supposed to have a total of 32 or 64 added until a specific year. So I just want to see what's going to happen after that year. Are we going to continue, or we need to add more fundings to go? And I think for us to be proactive, to work already to that path, so we know already what we have, to start working on that in years to come.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think in that realm, advocacy with the state on the EPS formula is really important. If they're going to mandate that we do a particular, whether it's coming from the education department or from DHS, whatever, that unfunded mandates are difficult in to say the least. And I think that's something we can think about. And Mr. Ali.
Yeah, real quick, not to overwhelm you guys, but one of the things I think that was also mentioned to me a lot, you say working with Lewiston, both Portland, was that the Islamic population in Lewiston grew so much, and the Islamic population in Portland is really large. And knowing that, the 2 other Abrahamic religions have been considered in holidays, but Eid is something that was looking into being considered. And I don't know how much you guys have heard about other requests of that or not.
I think that is on the agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
Calendar.
Okay, good. All right. Sweet.
January. Yeah, we'll come with a proposal in January. That I had hoped to do it earlier in the fall, but had to back off a little bit for a variety of reasons. But we've got I've actually done an initial draft of a potential calendar, but we're trying to step back from that a little bit and look at policy language that we might put forward to the committee to update. We don't have anything more in our policies than that the board will approve a calendar every year in April. It's pretty uninspiring and just aligned to state law. So we'll come with some potential language. Drummond, our legal, supporters, the law firm that helps us, has been, I've sort of drafted them to help us look at this and see what other folks are doing. So they're starting to bring us some information that we can look at that will help guide what we bring to you for January.
Sweet, thank you so much. And then last question. This is based off of something else. This is my first committee meeting. So whenever, is it required that we have our camera on the laptop as well? Because sometimes it is in the evening, and I do have to go maybe run errands, pick up my daughter and go get groceries and things like that. So
you just have to be aware. We do what we can do. Being on camera is great just because it's as close as we can get to interacting and seeing each other's faces. But I think there are times I think Dr. Ahmed is actually on the phone, right? Mm-hmm. Has been on the phone because that's how he could access. Okay. But love to see you, but families.
Yeah. Okay. No, sweet. Thank you. Okay.
And I have one more.
Oh, just Ms.
Okay.
Bando,
Anything else?
I just wanted to jump in. The board just passed an updated remote policy that you can look at, Ali, that spells out kind of like how we use technology in our meetings. And I think through several board conversations, we decided that like the most important thing is engagement. So we just need people to show up and be engaged, and whether or not you have to have your camera on or not, that you get to make those choices about that. But just the level of engagement is what we need the most.
Yeah. I got you. Of course, you can't be on a meeting and not be there. That's
That's
Yes.
true. Yeah.
Thanks.
gotcha.
Can you say something, Mickey?
Yes. I just forgot one on the policy here that I put note. I know that we have in our strategic plan, we have equity on the strategic plan, Dr. Warren, and I think something that I would like to see the equity policy coming up where I can see the alignment with the strategy plan, or if we can amend or revise some other language, because I sponsored that policy a couple of years ago. But when I see the new strategy, I just want to make sure that the policy with the strategy is aligning together. It's going to the same direction. Yes.
Yeah, that's AC. That whole section, AC section I was looking at is got intertwined aspects of equity, and it's important. And they go into other sections. So Mr. Ali, that is something. If you're under board docs, under policies, there's like letters A, B, C, D, different sections that have to do with different categories according to some national organization with some peculiar lettering that I find very weird. But that section A is largely where you'll find the equity stuff on it. And anyway, it's just a thought. I sent you all a note about, potentially looking at picking up something in different, engaging and saying, is this even reasonable policy anymore? I mean, there's some of those. If you have any particular desire to look at some, it's like, Vicki, you're looking at the equity piece, or one of the other ones, students. There's a lot on students, a huge section on students, and personnel. So, keep in mind what you're interested in the broad aspect of policy.
Yeah, no, and I'm just going to ditto what Sarah was saying in the comment. That I was going to be focused on a lot of this next Sunday during orientation. So, and I mean, I really haven't read the policy. Yeah, there's like a lot I still have to really dig into. So I'm not going
to. Piece at a time.
Yeah, I'm not going to say much right now with my limited education on behalf of. So, yeah.
What silliness. Just as it is. Sarah.
I was just going to ask about, I think it came up in the last meeting or maybe the meeting before. Last year, we had put together like a policy tracker so that we could see when things were updated and when they weren't. And it does not feel like a super priority to have that updated right now. But I think within the new year, if we could have that as just a part of this committee, I think that would be great. Just so we can start to see like what's out of date and what's not. That may help us focus on what needs to be done.
I think, but Mickey brought up before the list I was looking at, we had last year that said, when it was in, some of them are 15, 20 years old. And that's when I was looking at that saying, hey, not that they're bad policies necessarily, but just that you're right. Look at that. So,
yeah, there's the possibility to just review a policy. And if the board decides it doesn't need changes, at least we can show and mark it as reviewed this year so that it doesn't look like it's 30 years old still. And yes, you had requested that tracker before, and I apologize that we haven't gotten it to you yet. I actually had a meeting set with Kate Phoenix to work on it, and we had to cancel it. So we're behind, but we will definitely get that caught up for the new calendar year. And then the other thing I will note is that we might come to you with some things. I think that some of us are experiencing at the staff level that when we're working on various buckets of work, every now and then we'll go and take a look at the relevant policy and think, whoa, this just doesn't feel up to date anymore. And, unless you're really reading through like an encyclopedia policy by policy, which is very time consuming, sometimes this is how you catch the things that are kind of most relevant to the current work. And so it may be that we come to you with some things that would be helpful from our point of view to update.
We'll work together. Is there anything else that comes to mind? I noticed that Chair Lentz put a link in the committee about what is already there on Google Doc spreadsheet. So I think some of those things had been updated. I said the book paper I have has got comments on it. So we'll look at that. I will go looking on that. Anyone who wants to, like I said, pick a couple on their own. One of the things that came up last year, which is so peculiar, seemed to take so much time, and we have to do it through policy approval, is going from committee to board, and just, what's the name of the board, so as opposed to the education committee. So, I've been starting to look through that. If you got, we all have so much time, but if you see some and want to redline a few, we can pull them out and just clean them up here and there. But anyway, I appreciate you being here, Dr. Edwina. It's good to hear what's going on, and also Dr. Abdul. So,
we appreciate your engagement, and I think the topics that you heard tonight, both about the special ed topic, we are really excited to see this work go forward, and grateful for Sarah's leadership on that, and then also looking forward to kind of our renewed focus on equity work in the district as well.
Right. Well, is that I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move.
Ooh, second. Thank you. All in favor? Raise your hand. That's it. We're good. Thank you. See you next week at our board meeting.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you all.
What time is it? 6:05. We are finished.